Hello everybody and welcome to another Stellaris video. Today I wanted to share you guys one of the most broken builds of all time in Stellaris. This build is so powerful it literally makes Virtual look like a walk in the park, as the production we're getting here blows away anything that I've ever seen in Stellaris before. And none of this is abusing bugs or unintended behaviors, as everything within this build is actually intentional, just incredibly overpowered. So, how does this work and what are we doing here? If we take a look at our homeworld here, we have 4,000 telepaths. And with a covenant with the Whispers of the Void, we're producing almost 4,000 tech just from telepaths. In addition, this gives us an absolutely incredible resource bonus from jobs. If we take a look at one of our catalytic technicians and take a look at the production from them, let me remember how to do this as quickly as I can. Right, here we go. We're getting a whopping plus 560% bonus to per pop production, meaning a single catalytic technician for us, or a single 100, produces 131 alloys, a truly ridiculous number. At just year 31, we have a fleet of well over 100,000 Riddle escorts, ready to take anyone in the galaxy, and in addition, just in case that wasn't enough, they're equipped with jump drives, so we can jump wherever we like, reaching a good chunk of the entire galaxy. In addition, we have a strong basic economy with the ability to kind of like very, very quickly fix things, as they're just producing such a crazy amount of resources. And we have done this on only 2 planets. And even in addition to that, when our Covenant upgrades, which it should about 10 years after formation, your research will even double after this. So let me fast forward until that happens just to show you guys what that looks like. By the way, I thought I would share this. It is just year 36, and now our bond grows deeper with our Sanctum of Whispers, meaning our technology will almost double thanks to our telepath increasing, and we have mega engineering. So yeah, year 36, we have 200,000 fleet, 11,000 tech, 8,000 unity, a completely finished tradition tree, and just to boot, we have just 100 empire size and could easily get that back below 100 if we had, say, sovereign guardianship or another source of empire size reduction. A truly, truly ridiculous build. I think this is the strongest that has ever been seen in Stellaris history. Also, we have basically unlimited strategic resources. Genuinely insane. So, how have we done this, and what build are we playing? So, let's exit to main menu, and let's show every click you need to make such an incredibly powerful Empire build. So, this is the cat clones, and we start with Parliamentary System, Civil Education, Fanatic Egalitarian, and Xenophobe. One very, very important things about playing this build is having the correct species traits, as these makes a huge difference for the early game sustainability, and the most important one is Seasonal Dormancy. Seasonal Dormancy gives a whopping minus 75% upkeep to unemployed or civilian pops, meaning that you can get basically one of the most efficient pop jobs in the game being a civilian, when in combination with civilian education, which turns your civilians basically into researchers. More on this as we start the game. Fanatic Egalitarian and Xenophobe is for Parliamentary System, which now is much buffed compared to last patch, and gives a significant amount more unity than it did before Stellaris 4.0. In combination with Fanatic Egalitarian, giving plus 50% faction unity output, means we can rush unity really, really quickly and get our tradition trees finished incredibly fast. And last but not least, we are aquatic with clone soldiers with the clone army origin, and this is just the origin with the highest source of pops in the early game, and we're going to be able to really, really quickly ascend and become the most broken, powerful empire in the entire galaxy. In addition, I would like to shout out 2 players who have helped a lot with developing this build, and that is Jose and Anger, as both of them have kind of helped find techs that have made this build as good as it is, and this video wouldn't be possible without them. So thanks a lot. Also shout out to Sakuya, who had the original thing, who originally told Jose about the fact that you could now have basically not unlimited, but you can use what's it called? Police precinct buildings to unlock bonus telepath jobs. So, the early game is a little bit rough with this build, but that is not a problem, and I'll show you guys how to manage it. So, you first want to start off with isolationist and civilian economy. Um, and on your home capital system, you want to immediately go ahead and demolish every single building except for your civilian industry, state academy, and toon clone vats. Then you want to go into your jobs and you want to literally disable everything. We don't want bureaucrats. We do want educators. We want only some metallurgists because, as you saw last time, we only had 2 planets, and we don't actually need any colonies in the early game. We also don't need any farmers, or we don't need very many at least at the beginning, and we don't need technicians. And if we turn off all our jobs, how are we going to sustain our economy? You'll see very quickly. And we'll leave the minor jobs on for now, and we'll even turn off all our researchers, as we won't need those either. Basically, all we're going to be doing, oh, yeah, I forgot one very important step. Don't forget to go ahead and turn your living standard on your species to utopian abundance. This makes them very happy despite being civilians or unemployed, and in combination with the familial trait we took earlier, they'll be very happy being in a crowded place together and unemployed. So yeah, this build is just genuinely so funny. It doesn't make almost any sense, yet it still works, and we're going to immediately start purchasing minerals and starting to build some clone vats, as we're going to need as many clone vats as possible on our capital as soon as possible. And yeah, so with this, how the hell are we going to sustain our economy? As you can see, we still have enough food and enough energy credits from just the base output of our empire, basically, but we are lacking a little bit of consumer goods, and that is why our first pick is going to be mercantile. This first thing, trickle up economics and mercantile, is now one of the most powerful picks in the entire game, as you get 100 or 1 trade per 100 civilians. This is really, really broken in combination with the pure amount of civilians we have with Clone Army and this many unemployed pops. So that's one of the first things we're going to want to do, is simply pick up this mercantile, and that will increase our trade a lot and allow us to kind of purchase our economy instead of relying on other things. And the next thing you'll notice is our consumer goods are extremely negative, and this is also a problem at the beginning, but there's also a really easy solution for this. As the next pick in mercantile, adaptive economic policies will allow us to turn our trade produced by our civilians into consumer goods, therefore fixing our consumer good problem and our energy credit and basic resource economy problem all at once. So let's go ahead and select that. Make sure to set consumer benefits. There we go. And basically, what the State Academy does, which is give base research production to our civilians, means our civilians are basically one of the most amazing jobs of all time, producing loads of tech, trade, amenities, and unity in one job. That's basically every single resource in the entire game being produced from one singular job type, which is kind of unprecedented in like how good that is. Oops, we don't want another civilian industries. Instead, we want another clone vat. One thing we also want to get up and running as soon as possible is an autocathon monument to get some bonus unity out of our pops there. The other thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and make sure we promote our egalitarian faction, as they're going to be our #1 unity production source, and also make sure they're happy. So what we can do to increase their happiness just a tiny bit, but it helps, is change to benevolent vassalage. We can change this back later once we're past the early game, because we won't be subjugating anyone in the early game anyway. And if we take a look at this, we're getting 90 unity from one faction already. This is why this build is so powerful, as our unity and tech output are going to scale up so fast, it'll be barely believable. Yeah, once again, we do want to immediately start building an autocathon monument and just try to keep the capital building as much as you can. You will find that you have a little bit of trouble maintaining energy credits and such, but once again, you can just buy them, as our civilians are producing so much trade, and since we're clone armies, we're going to be getting so many resources from clone armies as well. And we want to go ahead and open one vision just to increase our unity speed even more. And yeah, take a look at this. We're making 200 unity and 200 tech at year 1. Absolutely nuts. Planetary unification. Like, this build genuinely moves so fast, it feels like the whole game is accelerated into mere minutes as we scale up through like the progression of the game in what would normally take 30 to 40 years in like the first 10 years. Ascension, pops with clone vats. As you can see, we're getting, with just the 4 clone vats already, a ridiculous plus 40 pop growth, and this is only going to increase as we move on to plus. We should have built the Autocathon monument on the Archives district, which is a mistake there, but it's not a huge deal. Next, we're going to dip Prosperity for standard construction templates. Actually, we'll just finish it. Why not? We finish tradition trees so fast anyway. Not a big deal. And basically, how does this build scale? Well, one very important thing is when you form a Shroud Covenant, you get 5 choices, but only one of them is good, which is the Whispers of the Void. And the reason it's good is because the Whispers allow you to turn Telepaths to make both Unity and Tech, which are the 2 most important resources for scaling up. And we must roll it, which means we need to be materialist and upgrade psionics, which is always a funny thing to do. And in addition to that, in order to increase our chance of rolling Whispers even more, probably up to about 90%, so about 10% of the time you will be screwed, and you will have to try to re-roll your Covenant, which is a very expensive and long process, but it still can be done. So don't feel too bad if that does happen. And we'll show you all the things that I know that you can do to maximize the chance of actually rolling the Covenant that you want in Whispers of the Void. And that is making sure you have certain tradition trees, certain ascension perks, and certain government ethics and stuff like that. And then you should be very, very likely to roll the correct ethic or to roll the correct Covenant. And as you can see, we're approaching 400 unity at year 2. Like, does this look like vanilla Stellaris? Not really, in my opinion. But believe it or not, this is 100% vanilla Stellaris. And even more amazingly, like, there's been more broken builds this patch that use the likes of, say, Corporate Sapiens or something like that on Synth Fertility, which is just a broken trait, which is probably 10 or 100 times more effective than intended, which is, not great. A bit of cheating. And yeah, here's the first perk we're going to take that's not one vision, and that's Tech Ascendancy. And we don't really need Tech Ascendancy as our tech is so high, but we're going to take it because it increases the chance of Whispers of the Void by 50%, which is a start. In addition, we can go Discovery, that will increase it by another 50%, or Subterfuge if you're playing multiplayer and want to hide. Subterfuge can keep your first contact extremely difficult, so you can be basically impossible to first contact for anybody who's not rushing code breaking, which is basically nobody. But since we're playing in single player, Discovery is perfectly fine and will help us have an extra research trait as well, which is a nice little touch. And in addition, if you can find one, a trade-focused leader will actually help you a lot here, or a leader with, what's another trait that helps? I believe we're looking for architectural interest, but we don't have a single leader which happens to have architectural interest or trade focused, which is a little bit unlucky, but we can continue to look for them every 5 years as our leader pool refreshes. Yeah, we don't get lucky with this leader pool. Our unity is also so high, I'm not going to bother to fire the leaders we don't need. It's just more APM than it's worth. And basically, we're going to be rushing for, in our society tree, we're looking for colonial centralization. Once we get colonial centralization, we will stop selecting society tax in order to build it up. In case you guys don't know, when you stop using a tech in Stellaris, it doesn't go to waste. It actually goes into a buffer. And then when you start using that buffer, your tech will research at twice the speed it normally would until that buffer runs out. and your buffer is cashed in at basically twice your actual research speed. Um, so that is something to keep in mind. So when we're rushing techs and for Shroud Ascension, we do need certain techs, right? So we're going to keep that in mind. In addition, once we run out of space for new clone vats or new state academies, or right, can't afford more state academies, just start to build city districts to start developing your homeworld, as trying to catch up on developing your homeworld later on will be very, very difficult. And also take a look at our trade. Our trade is so high now, we can just go ahead and buy copious amounts of anything we need. Um, we don't even have to work very many jobs. In fact, we can go ahead and, for example, we wouldn't need to work metallurgists if we didn't need some alloys. We're going to leave them here for now. Actually, let's just get rid of them. We don't need metallurgists. And we don't need farmers. And screw it, we don't even need miners. We can just buy it. Instead, all those guys will start producing tech, unity, and all the other good stuff. So yeah, this is probably a better configuration, although it feels a little bit blasphemous and a little bit expensive. It feels so weird once again, but we can just purchase everything thanks to Mercantile. So truly, truly amazing. One planet, 600 unity, 500 tech at year 4. Crowdsourcing be damned. This build is way, way better. 525 unity on this next update. The reason why I like Fanatic Egalitarian is it actually lowers your chance of rolling Whispers, which is what we want, but it produces so much more unity when most of your pops are in one faction, because there's some non-linear scaling that is probably not intended going on, as the faction size scales the amount of unity you get per pop in addition to the actual unity amount, which is, non-linearly scaling, which of course means you really, really want to hard focus that as much as possible. And also, we're pretty lucky here, or not pretty lucky, we're pretty unlucky here. We get our archaeological site, and it's pretty late, which means we might have some trouble there. One thing we do want to do is we want to set this ship to evasive. In case somebody attacks us, it won't fly away and cancel the build, which can happen and is really, really frustrating when that happens. And it's also year 5, and we finally do get a trade focus leader, and we can go ahead and fire one of these that we don't need. Let's go ahead and fire that one. And that will help us sustain our consumer goods, which, as you can tell, is a little bit expensive. So yeah, let's also just pick this trait so it stops bothering us. 836 unity at year 5. We are going to scream through these tradition trees. I am playing on 0.5 unity and tech, which means if you play on 0.75, which is the multiplayer standard, this build will be a little bit slower, probably about 10 to 15% in terms of dates. But the reason I'm playing on this is simply because the next Monty tournament, which is tomorrow, is actually going to be played on these settings, so I just want some practice in the settings that will actually be used during the tournament. And also, we get Starhold. One thing that we are really looking for is we're looking for moats. Moats will help us upgrade our state academies to get even more tech out of our civilians at the cost of more consumer goods. But with this much trade, you can imagine we would start to be able to buy some of our consumer goods in order to focus more on producing tech, which is obviously something we really, really need. And once our tradition tree is done, we also want to go ahead and select mind over matter, and we want to go ahead and finish off evolving society as soon as we can. We can just spend the unity to do it, as you can tell, we're just not lacking unity in any way. We are unluckily just at 101 empire size now, which is unfortunate, but in case you do actually want to super mini-max the build, you can try to stay below 100 during your Covenant researches and such, as they will be sped up dramatically. I believe if you wanted to hyper mini-max, that actually would be faster than just trying to directly ascend, but that's not worth really thinking about or doing. Why can't I fully deprioritize these? Whatever. yeah, just go be civilians, you know? Go be civilians. You're more useful, you produce more tech, more consumer goods. Just a genuinely mind-bogglingly efficient way to play the game. This is so funny. Now we do need moats now. No moat plants yet. Um, faction resource output is so good. We might take that. But if we don't get it, of course, I think we just leave the tech empty now to start building it up. And also, we can go ahead and turn on education campaign, skip the agenda. Actually, we don't have to do that. We don't have statecraft. Never mind. Ignore what I just said. And we can go ahead and take mind over matter. What this agenda does is it guarantees us the research option for psionics, meaning we don't have to RNG it, and we can just take it as soon as we hit it, which is, as you can imagine, really, really nice. In addition here, I am going to build one more state academy on this district here. And then, of course, that means we're going to have to rebuild our Autocathon monument on the archives, which is why I should have built it here in the first place. That's a small mistake. So if you're following the build exactly to the T, follow it in that order, not the one I showed. And yeah, very soon our these districts are going to complete, which is going to be really nice. 1K Unity now, 635 tech. I don't know who thought this was a good idea, but I certainly enjoy it, so no complaints there, I guess. And it also look at the planet management too. Like, how funny is this? I've got 200 elites employed, 500 educators, 500 artisans, some random jobs that I can't quite get rid of for some reason. Now I can. I do not know why the game wouldn't let me get rid of them earlier. And literally nobody else. It is so funny looking. As you can see, our other tech is actually really good too, as we are really starting to push through those tech trees as well. Also, let's keep an eye on this so we can skip through that as soon as we can and start on our psionic ascension, because, well, that is the entire point of this build. And there's also a few details there I want to show you guys to try to maximize the efficiency when you do that, but one of them here is leaving the society tree blank as soon as you hit all the really, really important text you want. We're making 1.3k Unity. It's not even year 10. 1,100 Unity from our egalitarian faction here. And I am showing this build before the finals tomorrow, so people can go ahead and steal it, and that's fine, because I'm somebody who definitely likes to share the broken metas when they are found, as I think the community is altogether better if, instead of trying to hide stuff from each other to try to benefit yourself the maximum amount, if we share stuff, we'll discover funny new things to do as soon as possible. So I hope everyone watching kind of reciprocates that day and share any really funny ideas you have for builds in the chat, because I do read the comments even if I don't reply, and I learned a lot from the last video. For example, I didn't even know that you could build city districts in order to expand your 2 specializations on each planet, which is really, really cool. Thanks guys for that tip. I didn't really get how you're supposed to go vertical on alloys and stuff, and that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, sharing details like that helps me a lot to come out with fun builds to show you. And just look at this planet production; it looks so funny. This is amazing. And let's go ahead and build our mode plants too, which will help us go vertical on our. Wait, did we not queue a state academy? Or to accidentally delete it? I probably accidentally deleted it. It's not a big deal. We can actually shuffle this in front, as it's a more important build, to be honest. And another thing we can do to actually speed up our buildings, which, as you have probably noticed, is one of the limiting factors, is ascend your planet when you can, and continue to look out for that leader that increases build speed, architectural interest, that is. But unfortunately, we miss it again. It also feels weird to leave a tech open. I check it every time as if I'm going to pick something. I'm not. We can also indeed skip mind over matter now. We could wait a few months to save thousands of Unity, literally, but not particularly worth it. So let's go ahead and skip that agenda now, and finally start on our newly found psionic theory tech, which only takes 6 months because we saved a lot of tech, so it's going to be going really fast. And even despite that, we still have 17k Unity left in the bank. What a build. I do hope that at some point these builds are nerfed, not completely into the ground, but like reduced in power, because seeing something like this does kind of barely feel like the game of Stellaris anymore, as this build is basically, I think it has to be the next virtual, in the sense that we can't have multiplayer lobbies and tournaments where some people play this and some people play other builds, as there's really no way for basically any other build in the game to even have a chance to compete against a build as powerful as this one. So I do hope that unlike Virtual, which kind of never got nerfed or changed, these builds probably need to be at least slightly reduced in power in the long term to be to feel fair. And also, I selected another tech. Let's stop that, as I don't actually want to finish that, as the next tech I actually want to do is finishing the Psionic tree. So let's go ahead and finish the Psionic Ascension tree. We are lacking a few thousand Unity, 2,000 Unity, so that's just 2 months, right? So we did skip our agenda a little bit too early because we wasted a bit too much Unity on that, but not a big deal. As long as we get our Ascension off in time, we are good. And yeah, so it's just so funny that like I always enjoyed using Utopian for unemployment, but now it's the most powerful build is genuinely pretty funny. And let's go ahead and research this Breaching the Shroud project. It does take 13 months, so it would take much less time basically if we were below 100 empire size. Unfortunately, we're exactly 100 empire size, so once again, with mini-maxing, I wonder if taking a trait that reduces empire size from pops would be a good idea. If we take a look at our species here, I am unruly, so looking at it now, this would be better with non-adaptive instead of unruly. So yeah, I'm starting to realize that now. Go non-adaptive instead of unruly, and you should be at exactly 99 or 98 empire size right now, which means your situation will be even a bit faster. And we go Cosmogenesis as a fun crisis perk, as this helps this build scale even more vertically with the Cosmogenesis buildings. And with that as much tech as we're going to have, what else are we going to do except for Cosmogenesis, right? So that should be pretty fun. And as you can see, we're overtaking 1k tech now. And that really is simply from existence, basically. Like, we have 1k tech simply from civilians. 7.4k of them is a lot, but that's a lot of tech. That's 70 jobs for 1k tech. I mean, like, that's an almost similar efficiency to actual researchers in the previous game. Like, let's take a look. From planet buildings, the base output is like set. What is this? 2.25 times 3 is 6.75 plus 1. Oh, this is trade. I was like, there's no way we're making that much tech per pop. Geez, they do so many things. It's like, yeah, okay, each civilian 100 civilians produces 8 of each tech, which is indeed about the same efficiency as researchers from previous Stellaris patches, right? Which is like, wow. You know what I mean? That's genuinely like, how can other builds compete with this, where you can have 70 researcher jobs and their upkeep is basically nothing? I mean, yes, 300 consumer goods is a lot, but the fact that these guys produce trade as well, like they're traders, producing 8 trade or something, right, each, is insane. Absolute insanity. Like, they're a trader and researcher in one, so they sustain your economy, they produce your Unity, just everything. And let's reach into the Shroud here and commune with it. We had almost exactly enough energy credits, which is funny. And let's go ahead and research this, which will take another 12 months. Oh yes, and this is something very important. important is you normally need a leader who's not your main leader to win the election. And I see we have a problem here because our main leader is by a landslide margin the favorite. Which, do I even have enough unity to promote a second leader to the next place? Let's find out. We don't. Oh my god. That's a problem. We don't have enough time to murder this leader. Wow, we messed up the build, guys. We messed up the build. Uh, that's a problem. I've never seen this before, by the way. I've never seen a favor of 120 with the next one being 7. Normally, your Minister of State is pretty popular, but not this time. Well, that's okay. We'll play with a. Actually, this is a video. We have to fix this. Yeah, I've genuinely never seen that before. So sorry, I have to save scum here, and I don't know why it's so slow. But we need to go back a little bit to see if this is fixable at all. I don't know why this is happening. Actually, this feels unusual. I would say. Can I kill my leader? Is there a way I can think of that would kill this leader? Wait, is that the head of research I have who's number 1? Oh no, my head of research is down here. Hmm. The only thing I could think of is if I suppress this faction, does that change anything? Nope. Okay, let's go back a little bit further. Load game. Yeah, this sucks, unfortunately. I've never seen that before. If anyone can tell me why that election is so one-sided, please let me know, because otherwise this build doesn't work if you can't remake your government year 10, which is very common for a lot of bio builds, but let's go ahead and wait till year 10 again and see if the build is still completely broken. And if there's anything we can do about it, I guess it would be not spending any unity. So we'd have to go back until before we spent this unity and actually have enough to reprioritize the jobs. Okay, there. Sorry for the interruption there, guys. But let's go ahead and load the game from probably here. Make sure we have enough unity for the election. I should have remembered this regardless, so sorry about that, but we will need it, as this build really doesn't work without reforming the government. So let's try to fast forward a little bit through the next little bit, since we've repeated this part a few times already. And I don't even know if we'll have enough unity as is, even with 1.5k production per month, which is kind of insane. I really can't think of a way to kill my Empire leader fast enough. Like, I can't see anything that I could fly them into or something like that in like no time at all to just get rid of them, as we have not explored the galaxy at all, which is probably something we should have been doing. So a bit of a skill issue on my part, but not a huge deal. So let's go ahead and, you're the most popular guy. Let's just try to get you to number. It's not going to happen because this is a non-linear amount of unity to increase support for them, which means we're basically never going to have enough. So I think we'll just have to take an L on the next 10 years, which really sucks for this video, but alas, it is how it is. Please let me know if you know why the next leader is so far behind. Is it because they're the only egalitarian leader? Yeah, that's why. It's because they're the only egalitarian leader on our council. So actually, I think I can find a way to fix it then. Let's go back a little bit. Load game. Yeah, I'm surprised I've never ran into that issue before. But that's a new step to playing this build, I guess, is make sure you have a leader that is the most popular type on your council, which for me is, of course, egalitarian. So we need to find an egalitarian leader for our council. There we go. We have a new egalitarian Minister of Defense. So hopefully they'll be popular. And let's go ahead and speed up time until the election to make sure we can elect a new leader that will allow us to reform our government. Yeah, I guess that's something to pay attention to. Don't mess that up, because you could be in a load of trouble. And 1,239 unity from factions is wow. Wow, wow, wow. It genuinely looks just like so out of place in a Stellaris game to see these numbers at year 9. So, very, very insane there. Okay, our election has now started, and haha, now that is much cheaper. So, yeah, I guess do keep that in mind. Just be really careful and make sure you have one leader with the same preferred faction as your other leaders, with the same ethics, or you will be in trouble. Yeah, I had just completely forgotten about that. So, yeah, sorry, I had to do some save scumming there, but I didn't want to remake the whole video just because we messed up the election. And in case you do mess up the election, it's not the end of the world. It just means you won't really be able to hit the same numbers that you otherwise would have been able to, which is, of course, what I want to do for this video. Also, our homeworld excavation is done, and we can start communing with the ineffable, finally, the proper way around. And also, what we can do now is we can start scanning our nearby worlds for this event. Always select Tell the Truth, as it'll pay off in the long run. And there we go. Also, we can go ahead and do this. Honorable leadership. Yeah, our pops gain some extra happiness from that. And now, basically, we just need to commune with the ineffable. And we need to do 2 more steps, which is we need to start upgrading some of our buildings here. We do get architectural interest. Absolutely beautiful, as that will help speed up our processes a lot. And just continue researching these as fast as possible. And yeah, basically we just have to make sure we don't bankrupt on consumer goods now. That's kind of the next hard part of this build. We do have 11k trade to trade off for a few months of consumer goods at a time. And honestly, at this point, I'm just going to turn auto research on, because otherwise the non-stop interruptions from that will make the video really hard. And we do get Whispers of the Void, so that's kind of 3 important things. Is try not to be in a war, which is why sometimes if you're playing multiplayer, Subterfuge is great, so that people can't make first contact with you and declare war on you. The second thing is have 1 of Discovery or Subterfuge. The third is have Tech Ascendancy. The next is be Materialist, and if you have made first contact, place a spy network. That will multiply the chance to get Whispers again by 1.6, making it very close to like 90-95%, but it's still not guaranteed. If you get anything other than Whispers of the Void, the build isn't dead, it's just severely weakened for like the next 10 years until you can retry a Covenant. The way you retry a Covenant is you need to get 0, which means you need to contact the Shroud Walking Enclave. Let's see if we've contacted them. Yes, we have. All right, and you'll need to go do diplomacy with them. And every time that you get the event that's like, would you like to breach the shroud, and it costs 1,000 energy credits, once you click that button, one of the options will be 500 0 in exchange for forming a covenant. And Whispers of the Void is blue, so you want to form a covenant with the blue one. And also, let's disable one of these guidance centers as we start upgrading them, as it'll drain all our consumer goods if we don't. And this will like kind of juggle our tech around, but basically, right now all we need to do is research the biocipher code and do a clone army dissension, and then we're finally ready to redo our civics, which is why we needed a new leader in the first place, and start this build along its kind of very broken, fun path. So let's also replace this with a Psycore building. I believe we should have access to that now. Why don't I have access to a Psycore building? Interesting here. And clone fertility. We don't want to go clone ascension, because then we won't be able to get rid of our other buildings there. And I don't know why the game actually will not let me select government, which is where the Psycore building is. It because this is an archives? This is because this is an archives. That's okay. Once we descend, we'll have space for a Psycore here, and we'll be able to replace this specialization out also. But yeah, now that we are fully descended, right? And we can take a look at what's going on. Well, it's not updated yet, but these educators will become telepaths eventually. I don't know when. This is a bit buggy, to be honest. I'm not sure. You should be able to have telepaths, and this state academy civic, civil education civic at the same time. It feels kind of weird. Anyhow, let's go ahead and reform our government, and this will nuke our research temporarily, but we'll be able to build it back very quickly. So instead of civil education, we'll take functional architecture. In addition, if you're scared about not rolling whispers, you can additionally put in technocracy for your covenant formation. But I've found that if you're lucky, just try to be lucky, you'll get it regardless. And also, we can go ahead and buy a Shroud teacher, actually. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's purchase some energy credits. Oh, there's some space piracy. I didn't know there still was space piracy. Now they got rid of trade routes. But where the hell is the Shroud Enclave? Is it really over here? Wow. Right. So this will give us a Shroud governor. We can use this as our homeworld governor now. Efficient staffing, sure. Why did I click efficient staffing? That's terrible. My bad. Refinery focus is terrible as well. Oops. And what we're going to do is we're going to put them as the master architect to give us as much build speed as we can possibly get, as now we're basically racing against our planetary build speed, which is a pretty funny thing to be racing against, but it is very important to have enough. So yeah, let's go ahead and fill our first districts with precinct halls and halls of judgment. As look at the telepaths, absolutely beautiful. They produce tech, they produce unity, they produce stability, just amazing. And we also have too many consumer goods now, so we can obviously stop buying some. And look, 11,000 trade is just so funny to look at too. And we can start repurposing this stuff into like alloys, which we'll need at some point. But before we do that, go ahead and change your first district specialization over to just simply being an urban expansion, as we need more urban buildings first. And as you can see, we also have what feels like an unlimited amount of unity. I like to go statecraft for the simple reason that statecraft lets you level up your leaders faster, which still does add noticeable bonuses. And we can go ahead and go supremacy, right? Because we are going to need to militarize at some point, and we'll just let that chill for a bit, because if we don't, we'll be clicking that nonstop. And now is also the time that, if you want, you could go ahead and expand to a second colony. And this unfortunately will also make your empire size go up. Right now, as you can see, we're only 95 empire size, which means there is a real reason that you might want to stick at one colony forever. But you'll eventually need more rare resource buildings and stuff like that, which all take up space, which you don't really have. And also, let's go ahead and add a Minister of State. It really doesn't matter which one we pick, to be honest. Favorite society, sure. And in addition, well, we can just go ahead and turn on edicts, right, as our empire size is so small. We don't actually need these edicts, so fortify the border, research subsidies. We don't need research subsidies. We don't even have researchers. But we also want to go militarized economy now. And once we finish our supremacy, we can go that. And look at it, it's year 15 and we're like redoing everything. It's crazy. Reach into the shroud, ship repair, sure. And we just want to basically cover our entire planet with telepaths, and then start producing whatever we want. So if we want alloys, we can convert this to an alloy specialization, right? And yeah, that is honestly basically the build. There's only two more important things to note. One is you can take another planet, which I would recommend turning into a planet that primarily makes the rare resources and additional alloys, or net nav cap. But since we're going to be making riddle escorts, our nav cap efficiency is going to be so high anyway, it's not really important, right? So basically all we need to do is we need to manually research Cosmogenesis, then we'll get Riddle Escorts as a tech option, and we can go ahead and do that. And once that is done, basically the only expansions we'll need to do then is basically 10 years later, just down the line, you'll naturally get an event that says we have grown a deeper connection to the Covenant, and basically get a big pop efficiency gain after that, which includes, your telepaths being upgraded basically 50%, which is, as you can imagine, completely broken. And then the next real thing of note is long after that, I don't know, maybe 30, 40, 50 years, I don't really remember exactly how long it takes, you'll get an option to create a Divine Sovereign. Basically, that's a special leader that comes with a special leader position that increases the power of your telepaths more. But I will say, at that point in the game, you'll be so powerful compared to everyone else, nothing will matter. So it doesn't matter anymore, right? As just take a look at this. We have almost no alloy jobs. We have 300. Let me go enable more of them now because that's not a problem. Also, let's go ahead and disable any artisan jobs. And take a look. We have 6k civilians, so we basically have enough civilians to go start an entire new planet and make it produce whatever we need, right? Alloys, not consumer goods. We have enough consumer goods, basic resources, anything you want, right? But most likely, the best thing to do is just cover another entire planet with Hall of Judgments and a Psycorps, because without the Psycorps, you will not get the telepath effects, so do be careful about that. And yeah, you're basically home free now. You could start building cruisers now if you don't want to wait for even higher tier ships, as our ally income is already high enough to far exceed most regular empires at this time. But if we simply want to min-max, simply finish covering your planet with Psycorps or with police precincts and the telepaths that produce unity and tech, and scale pop efficiency, also scale the pop efficiency of the other telepaths. So yeah, you could start to understand why that is so ridiculous. And you can enter creative mode in Stellaris at basically year 17. We're basically just like flipping text and waiting for whatever we want. There's a Riddle Escort, we'll have Riddle Escorts in a couple of years. So like year 2021 Riddle Escorts, that's insane. I guess you could also find ways to rush virtual almost as quickly, and it would probably scale almost, if not better. But with this build, you're not restricted to any number of planets, which is really nice. It's much easier to scale tech because you have much lower pop numbers and much higher pop efficiency, so it's less laggy. So I prefer that as well. I know there's ways to call, like people are calling now going infinite, which is scale your tech unity and pops so hard that you have literally infinite of whatever you need. In the sense that I saw a guy get so much tech, like I think over 1.5 million, and it overflowed and became negative. So he had negative a few hundred tech. So yeah, you could now overflow in tech, and those builds usually use modularity and civil, whatever it's called, like the same civic I've been using or was using before, civil education. So if you want to see builds like that, I'm yet to test them. I've been really busy, of course, since the update came out, trying different builds and talking to people participating in tournaments, and of course trying to also have a life. So a lot of things to balance there. We could take galactic force projection here, and once again, remember to ascend your planet to increase the build speed as much as possible. And yeah, just watch as you have every resource you could possibly want in the world. We can build more city districts, we can build more alloys, it really doesn't matter. I wouldn't build ships until Riddle Escorts personally, because I'm greedy, and Riddle Escorts are really cool, but you can build cruisers to protect yourself if you're worried about getting attacked in this like exact time break point between Riddle Escorts and such. So yeah, also remember, if you're playing seriously, to do scan some systems and take them. And that's mostly so you have enough star bases to build ships in a pinch. So yeah, probably don't do what I do and stay on exactly one system. But yeah, I think what's left to do here is let's go ahead and build and replace this. Oh, you can't upgrade it when a building is being swapped. That's a bit annoying. For the last thing, it really doesn't matter that much. You can go meritocracy. You can go ascensionists to ascend your planets to ridiculous amounts. I think. Oh no, we're not spiritualists, so we can't go ascensionists. Um, we can go back and we can't go back into civil education because it'll delete our precincts, I think. But let's actually test this just for fun. I don't know what happens if we take civil education again. Does it delete my precincts, or do I overcap on the? We've created something even more broken, guys. No, it updates and deletes your precincts. Okay. But for one tick, we have 13k tech. That is funny. If it didn't re-break your precincts, right, we could keep civil education, and we can actually put it back at this point too, because now we have a way to scale our consumer goods. I think so. Let's take a look at this. See if this is sustainable. Because this honestly might be better in terms. It's definitely better in tech. Um, right. So let's take a look at this. And why is this State Academy not upgradable, or is it in the upgrade queue? Ah, it's in the upgrade queue, so let's go ahead and upgrade that. I think this honestly might be better. It costs a lot of consumer goods, but it's even more tech, and slightly less telepaths, which is fine, I guess. This will definitely be worse after the Shroud Ascension, so I would switch back. But this also gives us some more building slots to play with, right? We could put a clone vat down. We can um, do other funny stuff, right? Like so, yeah. There's definitely different ways. I actually wouldn't recommend this. It was stronger before. Um, but yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.